Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the live radar. Then we'll have a look at the weather warnings, as we do have a few yellow warnings enforced for snow and rain in the north. And then we'll go through the GFS, the GEM, the ECMWF, the GFS Ensembles, and finish up with the UK Met Office run. Have a look at precipitation, temperature and wind gusts, as we do have some very stormy weather coming up over the next 7 days. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, in yesterday's video, we did have a look at the potential for seeing a very severe named storm early next Tuesday. We're still seeing the potential for something very stormy to come. Whether it's going to be named or not, we'll have to find out over the next few days, but it's still looking very stormy. But one thing that is starting to evolve within the models is that there's going to be a bit more of a colder undercut. So that does mean we are going to see more snow mixing in. Now, it does look like at the moment it will be mainly over the hills and at times could come to low-lying areas. However, most likely will be further northward. So if you are in southern England, it doesn't look like there will be much snow coming up over the next week or so, but it does look like it will be very stormy in general for all. But we'll have a look at the models and see how they are evolving these low pressure systems that are sliding into that cold air block that we do have towards Scandinavia. And if you have a look at the live radar at the moment, you can see we have a low pressure system moving through, centred just in the North Sea with its occluded front, giving some very heavy rain and heavy snow for some across northern England and parts of the Midlands into southern Scotland as well. Now, we saw it spread through overnight, and we did see some very heavy snowfall across Scotland, again mainly over the highest routes, so not really affecting many well-populated areas. Of course, there will be some people affected, but none of the major cities. It is now moving further southwards through the Midlands into Yorkshire, northeastern parts of England, into the southern eastern parts of Scotland as well, and we are seeing some snow over the highest ground. You can see it is, again, mainly over the peaks of the mountains, over areas that normally see snow this time of year, heavy snow from these sort of scenarios as well. Elsewhere is mainly rain to low-lying areas, but it is pretty chilly out there. Northwesterly wind with heavy rain and very strong winds within that colder northwesterly wind as well. Big gusts as well. So it's going to be very chilly out there. Feel like temperatures around freezing or 1 degree, with actual air temperatures around 4 or 5 degrees, so a bit too mild for snow. It will slowly sink southwards, losing its strength as it does, and there will be showers packing in behind it, as you can see at the moment. Now, if we do have a look at the weather warnings, you can see there are a few warnings in force. We do have 2 rain warnings, one just to the west of Newcastle, and one near Scarborough, Middlesbrough, that sort of area, from 6 p.m. today until 5 a.m. tomorrow. Persistent, possibly heavy rain with some snow on the higher level routes, leading to some travel disruption. Again, could be 20 to 40 millimetres and possibly over 60 millimetres, and could be 5 centimetres or so on the highest roads above 300 metres. High likelihood, lower impact. We also have a snow warning that was put in force at this afternoon at around 3:17, all the way to 11:45 tonight. Snow for a time this evening, leading to tricky travel conditions, especially over the hills. Could be 4 to 8 centimetres at the highest levels, and maybe to 1 to 2 centimetres at lower levels. High likelihood, lower impact. Again, these warnings have just been put in force this afternoon, so they are for very isolated areas, but of course there could be some severe impacts from that. Now, if we do have a look at the GFS, have a look at the potential stormy weather we have over the next week, you can see this low pressure moving to our east with colder air digging in behind it. And it could mean we could see a few wintry showers, especially in the north, even to low-lying areas at times. But you can see that colder air mass doesn't quite get as far south. Now, as I said, the wintriness within these low pressure systems moving in over the next week is increasing, and that is because we are seeing the block to our east towards Scandinavia slightly strengthening. Now, it's not going to be bringing in anything bitterly cold from the east, but it's just shifting that cold air mass a bit closer to the UK. Now, if we do have a look at the upper air temperatures, you can see that very cold air just lingering out in the North Sea. We see a low pressure system come through on Monday, cold air digging in behind it, and that very vigorous storm that we could be seeing through Tuesday. And if we do go have a look at the United Kingdom, look, you can see it getting down to 960 millibars. Not as deep as yesterday's low, which was getting down to 950 or below, but still vigorous low pressure system. And if we have a look at the upper air temperatures, milder sector within it, but there is cold air mixing in around it. And this is going to mean we could be seeing some snow to higher routes, especially in the north. Now, of course, the GFS isn't the only run. Other models are showing this system slightly further southwards, wrapping this cold air just to our east a bit more. And as it does move through, we see some cold air digging in behind it, even in the southeast. We could be seeing a bit of winteriness potentially there. If we do go have a look at the European outlook again, you can see still seeing these lows sliding into this colder air that's just to our east. And if we have a look at the upper air temperatures once again, you can see that colder air moving back in for Friday and Saturday before low pressure does push up against it. Much bigger, milder sector here, so much more likely to turn to rain, but could be snow initially. And we just stay really unsettled in the longer term. Milder and colder sectors, sort of oscillating between each other. But one thing we are seeing right towards the end of the run is a Scandinavian high, a proper Scandinavian high potentially developing a few days before Christmas. Now, this is 384 hours. It cannot be believed because it is in the uncertain time frame. But I am hearing rumblings around with people who do enjoy looking at the very long-term forecast, the very uncertain time frame. I don't normally sort of meddle in that sort of 384 hours plus or say what we're going to be seeing with any certainty in weeks or months ahead. But I have heard some rumbling that around Christmas time, or at least the last third of December, there is a signal within some of the long-range forecasts and some of the sort of longer-range models that higher pressure is likely to be coming up from the south and is going to be positioning itself somewhere in the North Atlantic towards the UK, for example. And on this latest GFS run, we're seeing it build towards Scandinavia. If we did see that properly get going towards Christmas time, we could be pulling in some of this colder air that is in Eastern Europe and parts of Russia as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on this on the longer term. Don't want to say too much about it at this stage because it could completely not come off and it could change drastically over the next week or two. But just some hints towards the Christmas period. And we'll start in probably over the next week or two. We'll start by having a look at what we could be seeing for Christmas. Now, if we do have a look at the GFS precipitation charts, very interesting. We're having a look at this. We'll only have a look over the next few days into early next week, because beyond that is a really unreliable time frame. So you can see snow at the moment over the highest ground. And then we see another weather front pushing in through early hours of Monday. Heavy snow across northern England, Scotland, again over the highest ground. But you couldn't rule out turning to low-lying areas for a time. And then we see another pattern, this very significant storm for Tuesday, bumping into that cold air once again. Heavy snow in the north, parts of Scotland as well. So even though to low-lying areas we're not seeing significant snowfall at all because that cold air isn't quite cold enough in the south, we're seeing the cold air to the north increase and just to our east as well, meaning some of these events may have more snow mixed in than was initially thought even a few days ago, or even right now we could see more snow falling out of the sky next week than we're even thinking right now. So if we do have a look at the snow depth, you can see over the highest ground across northern England and Scotland, significant accumulations are likely, 10 to 15 centimetres, even to low-lying areas for a time next Wednesday. Could be seeing a couple of centimetres here or there. Over Scotland, potentially half a metre of snow as well. It will melt away, of course. We do have milder air mixing in. But across the north, we could be seeing significant snowfall, potentially, in parts of northern England and Scotland. So that's something we need to keep an eye over the next week. Of course, it'll be stormy weather, strong winds, heavy precipitation, and there could be some heavy snow for some. And if we do have a look at the GM, see how it does compare again, you can see the low pressure clearing to our east at the moment, and then we go very unsettled with that potential named storm just to our west. Again, you can see it's a very deep area of low pressure, potentially 950 millibars, moving through, and then we go very unsettled once again in off the Atlantic. That colder block to our east does eventually break down towards next weekend, and it is a mild sort of westerly flow with the jet stream coming in straight from northeast parts of Canada with very, very unsettled conditions. And if we have a look at the ECMWF, see how it does compare again, you can see the low pressure moving to our southeast. You see that block of high pressure towards Scandinavia Mixing in with these lows, potentially turning it a little bit wintry at times. If you look at the 850 HPA temperatures, have a look at the deviation, you can see that colder air just to our east getting very, very close, but not quite close enough, and not quite mixing in with these lows to give more widespread snowfall. Beyond that, though, high pressure stays to our south, low pressure to our north, and generally a westerly flow. So it does look like beyond the next sort of 5 or 6 days, it will be turning a bit milder, but remaining unsettled and westerly. Now, if we do have a look at the GFS Ensembles, you can see this well reflected at the moment. If we just briefly update it as it is currently coming out, we can see it out to about 13-14 days, so close to the end of the run. You can see at the moment in London, it actually is pretty chilly over the next 5 to 6 days. As I said, we have got quite cold air mass over the top of us, but it isn't quite cold enough for snow. Ideally, you want the upper air temperatures to be around -5 or lower. You can see at times a few of the ensemble members are touching on sort of -5, -6, but the majority are staying around -3, -4 for most of the next sort of 5 or 6 days. Precipitation mixed in with that, and of course, as you climb in elevation and go further northwards, so that air mass is slightly colder, that's where we see the snow come into play. You can see towards the 10th, 11th of December, we see a steep rise as we see low pressure tumbling in off the Atlantic with a much bigger, milder sector as the Scandinavian high does slowly disintegrate away. And generally temperatures stay around and will maybe above average beyond that. Still a lot of scatter around, so can't say anything too definitive, but looking quite unsettled and mild in the longer term. If we do have a look at the sea level pressure, you can see quite a lot of up and down, so symbolic of low pressure moving in. You can see that deep low potentially early next week through Tuesday and Wednesday, staying quite low pressure for a period of time, because of course that low does move in. As it reaches sort of southern Ireland, it does start to fill in, lose its intensity, but we'll still have very strong gusts and very heavy rain. And if we have a look at the UKMO Operational Run in a minute, as you'll see in that, there are still 100 mile per hour potential gusts of wind along the southern coast of Ireland and potentially into southwest England as well, but it's staying pretty low pressure for that period of time, so heavy rain and gusty winds around with that. A slow rise towards the end of the run, but a lot of scatter with some going low pressure, some going higher pressure, of course. Now, if we do have a look at Glasgow, see how that does compare. Of course, it's more likely to be a bit colder. You can see again with the sea level pressure, a lot of up and downs, symbolic of the high pressure, low pressure sort of fluctuations we're going to be seeing over the next week or so. If we go to the temperature, 850 HPA, you can see that temperature is just a degree or two colder, around -4, -5 at 850 HPA, but precipitation mixed in could be more snow. Of course, higher routes are more favourable, Glasgow being near sea level, not going to be the most favourable, but could see some snow there. Longer term temperatures are returning to around average for a time before dropping down a little bit, and then returning to around average or above average right for the end of the run. A lot of precipitation around, so very unsettled and very windy as well. If we actually have a look at the 10-metre winds, you can see those winds picking up, probably more distinct in London through early next Tuesday, potentially 10 metres per second sort of wind speeds. Sustained, that is, so gusts will be a lot stronger. New snow depth in London, you can see not particularly significant at all. A few ensemble members go for that, but that will be those colder runs. And if we have a look at Glasgow, you can see the potential for some significant accumulations at times. Quite a few ensemble members now showing some snow throughout the next week or so. Now, if you do finish up, have a look at the UK Met Office run, see how that does. What was that showing for the next 5 days in terms of precipitation, temperature, and wind speeds? You can see at the moment that heavy rain and snow pushing through northern England. It will just continue where we have those yellow warnings overnight tonight before slowly disintegrating over the course of the evening, and a few showers pushing in from the east, potentially being a bit of wintry of nature across Scotland. And there's another weather front push through by early hours of Monday. Heavy snow across the Scottish Highlands, rain to low-lying areas, and still could be snow even to higher routes in England as well. We could be seeing a scenario where if you're over 200-300 metres, for example in Yorkshire, or in just generally northern England, you could be seeing an absolute dumping of snow for the next week, whereas if you're 10-20 miles away, but low-lying area, could be just seeing a lot of heavy rain. We could be seeing some very stark contrasts where that rain-snow line does eventually meet. You can see, though, that heavy rain does spread through, snow again over the highest ground. It could be a few wintry showers mixing in behind that, and then we see that vigorous storm moving in through early hours of Tuesday. severe winds across parts of Ireland and parts of Western England and Wales as well. Heavy rain pushing in, and could be some very heavy snow on its northern edge towards Scotland and parts of northern England as well, before slowly it does clear through and things go a little bit more settled, but still under low pressure influence. Now, if we have a look at those wind gusts, you can see nothing too major at the moment, 40-50 miles per hour. As again, we are under low pressure, so it's likely to be gusts around. Beyond that, though, as we have through Monday, brief pickup in wind speeds before that significant low arrives. Potentially 116 miles per hour wind gusts across southern parts of Ireland next week. So I do suspect, even if this storm doesn't get named by the British Met Office, the Irish Met Office, Met Éireann, I do suspect they will be naming this over the next day or two if we are going to be seeing winds in excess of 70, 80, 90 or 100 miles per hour in terms of gusts. See, those strong winds do continue in the Irish Sea, along the south coast, and even into parts of western areas, and pretty widely across many coastal areas. You can see those brutal winds basically surrounding Ireland around the centre of the low as it spreads through Northern Ireland. Could be some devastating impacts from this low pressure system, so we'll have to see exactly if it does get named. I do suspect it will, but we can't call it until it does get named by an official weather service. Beyond that, those strong winds stay around and things slowly turn more settled for Thursday. Now, if we finish up, have a look at the max temperatures, you can see at the moment temperatures around 3, 4, 5 degrees in the north, about 6 or 7 in the south, and around freezing over the highest grounds. That's why we're seeing those potentially fall as snow. Over the course of the evening, pretty chilly night, around 3, 4, 5 degrees, but not quite getting towards a frost, apart from maybe areas in the north where we do have quite a bit of cloud around. Sunday's going to be another quite chilly day, 4, 5, 6 degrees, but again, not quite cold enough for snow to low-lying areas. Cold enough so it feels chilly out there. You'll be having to wear a coat, potentially even hat and gloves, with quite a severe wind chill around as well, but not quite cold enough for snow to be falling. For Sunday night, could be a widespread frost, potentially for a time across England and parts of Scotland as well, but milder area does move in for early hours of Monday. Could be seeing snow on the northern edge of that, of course, and then through Monday night into early hours of Tuesday, a more widespread frost does form quite widely across many northern eastern areas across Ireland and Northern Ireland as well, before we see that severe low move in. Of course, a milder sector in the south and southwest, but still bitterly cold in the north, so that's where we could be seeing snowfall. And beyond that, through Wednesday, still chilly, around 4, 5, 6 degrees, and finally by Thursday, early hours, still a few degrees above freezing in the south. We do have, again, of course, a bit milder air, but still pretty chilly. So it's looking very stormy, very windy, of course, with that, with heavy precipitation around as well, but with very cold temperatures still in the north and generally chilly conditions in the south. We could be seeing some very sort of cold, stormy weather and the potential for some heavy snow for some. And I do suspect there will be some warnings put in force, and we could be seeing this storm named for Tuesday. So do make sure you keep up to date with my videos and the official Met Office warnings, or whether you're in Ireland, Met Éireann's warnings, as I do suspect there'll be a lot coming over the next week or so. But anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.